What's up, y'all? I believe this is Sound Booth Theater Live. I believe we are live on... I think we're live on Sound Booth Theater Live. Requests only today. We got some cool shit coming. Hope y'all Sunday's going good. What's up, DJ? Daniel Schinhofen. Good to see you, man. Oh, no. Wrong one. Still adding some shit. But you can't see it. Thankfully. Because I got the intro thing going. Can you guys hear any music? I'm always trying to get the music going, and it just never works. Damn it. That's so annoying. I need to figure this shit out. Well, I think we can do yours first, Dan. If you gotta leave early. We don't have a cover for your thing. For your new book. Or your surprise little... What's up, Truffle? See, what was the other one? How to avoid death. What's up, Shogun Lee? Good to see you, man. Final Fantasy 15. Man, it's been so long. I haven't played Final Fantasy since 7. Oh my god, I wish I'd had time to get a haircut today. I'm gonna apologize in advance. Actually, it's kind of late for the apology because my hair's been awful for the past, 2 weeks. Maybe more. I try and play it off like it's a Bruce Lee cut, but really it's just awful. Yeah, Dan, if you want to email it to me real quick, we can put it up. It won't be on the beginning screen or whatever. A man bun. I used to have a man bun. Alright. We're switching on over from the stupid intro to being in the booth, like the title says. Oh yeah. I'll leave it open since we're not recording. How's everybody doing? This is Sound Booth Theater Live requests only. Glad to see y'all. And we got the cover sent to us, so if you just give me a second, y'all, I can incorporate that into the stream, because that's going to be our first request. While I'm setting this up, I would like to advertise The Last Warrior of Unigaya. That is still out on Audible, because they don't really take them down, you know. Yes, it's the very first, as you can see, it's the very first audiobook that we've stamped the Sound Booth Theater logo on, and the very first one I produced with another narrator guest appearing, Miss Annie Ellicott, who was quite brilliant for her first go at voice acting. She plays Sam Raid. So, oh wow, that's a cool cover. All right, she plays Sam Raid. Oh, no, stop it. Stop it. Quite impressed. I've been a fan of hers for over a decade. And it was really cool to be able to get her in the booth with over here at my place, and you know, get her to do a voice and help direct, and hopefully she'll be back for the next 2 books in the series. Danny says, oh, had a thought, why not have a thing where the author guest stars a minor appearance character? Like a... what's his name? Like the Marvel author? God, what is his name? He's in every one of the Marvel movies as a little cameo. But yeah, by the way, I am giving out audiobooks, so Last Warrior is up for grabs. Also, Everrealm needs some love from y'all. I'll be giving out copies of that one. And lastly, I'll be giving out copies of Hero of Thera. Both great books. I think Hero of Thera is doing... Stan Lee, yeah, that's right. But Hero of Thera has been doing really well on its own. Everrealm has been doing actually decently well. But they both need more attention, so I'm giving all 3 of those away. Those are my latest 3 lit RPG releases. So if you want something, go ahead and request it in the chat. Okay, I need to add the cover now. Hopefully it's... Yay! Yay! Okay. Cool. Sorry guys, I'm just adding this cover in here because it's going to be our first request. Alright, so a long time ago, Daniel Schinhofen requested that I read from his new release. It's not even released yet. He's still working on it. Apocalypse Gates Rapture. I believe this is another lit RPG. Let me see. Let me go find it. It's kind of buried in my my email somewhere, but I will find it. Here it is. Yeah, Stephen King's been in his own movies before. Danny, would you mind keeping track of whoever requests audiobooks? Yeah, what do you think of this cover, guys? I think what I'll do is I'll let the back half hang off, and then I'll blow it up a little more so you can see the front cover better. Let's try that. So you get a better idea of what's happening here. This looks like For some reason, it reminds me of Japan a little bit. Maybe just because of the buildings. I don't know. No, where is this? This is like New York. I can't tell. Oh, nice. Truffles starting Everrealm tomorrow during work. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. It's not as lit RPG as people like some of the time, but I think it's totally worth it despite that. Where's my carousel? There it is. My carousel will turn on and off for some reason now. It like goes through a few covers and then it turns off. And it goes through a few and then it turns off. It's kind of annoying. But yeah, we got... It looks like Daniel is starting us off on Chapter 1 for his book, Apocalypse Gates, Book 1, Rapture. So let's see what we got here, guys. Any directions for me, Dan? Yeah, Chinatown. That's what I was thinking. Not a nice guy, early 30s, no special accent or anything. Alright, that sounds good. Lau, don't make noise while I'm streaming. Do whatever you want. That's a good direction. I like that. I need to adjust myself so I'm next to the mic better. Alright, here goes. Chapter 1. Alvin groaned as his eyes twitched, his hands coming up to clutch at his head, which felt like it had been smashed open. Face scrunching up in pain, he rolled to his side, his legs curling up into a fetal position. After a minute, the pain began to subside, going from death-inducing to a simple headache. Sighing, he blinked his eyes open to see a plain gray wall in front of his face. Okay, just 1 second. I'm distracting myself with this screen here. I need to go back to the okay, I'm at the Facebook feed now. I'm looking at both the Facebook feed and the Twitch feed. He tried to figure out where he was. Oh, we were just trying to figure out where he is. His apartment didn't have gray walls, which meant he was not in his bed. Sitting up, he looked around. It didn't take long. He was in a 10-foot square room. He was laying on a solid block made out of the same gray material as the wall. A few feet away was a stainless steel toilet and sink combination. Just like he was used to from jail. "Where the fuck am I?" he muttered as he looked up at the ceiling. The single light source above him seemed to be a recessed circle. He couldn't make out a bulb, even when he tried squinting at it to make out details. Revival process successful. Test subject 4642 has been revived. Welcome to your new life. The voice seemed to come from all around Alvin, who jerked in surprise as he looked wildly around to find the source. You are about to undergo the tutorial period. You may ask a few questions before we start. Where the hell am I? And what the fuck is going on? Okay, a board technician. We're gonna go okay, so I was doing like a robot sound for the thing in the speakers, but now it says a voice that was sounded like a board technician. So let me try that. The The standard ones it is. The voice was that of a bored technician. You are in our virtual lab. Your brain was uploaded into our network thanks to court order Debtors versus Cryogen. You are now our property, and we plan to make money out of you. As for what is going on, you will be thrown into a virtual world to play the game. The better you do, the more experience you gain, which you can use to upgrade yourself and your gear. You only get a single life to start with, so don't die.
Wait, are you saying that I died and my brain was put on ice?
Alvin asked, trying to recall if he had ever signed up for that. In the year 2020, you signed up to have your brain cryogenically frozen upon your death. You paid in full to the company Cryogen for them to keep your brain until such time that science could provide you a new body. A year later, you died. Your will was followed and your brain frozen. However, Cryogen, after many years of bad business, went bankrupt and had to dispose of their debts. The courts ruled that the brains not collected by family members could be sold to other companies for medical experiments due to a subclause in the contract you signed. Therefore, you are now our property. Huzzah for you. What's up, Don? Good to see you here.
So, I died, my brain was stored, then sold to you, and now you want me to play a death game?
Basically correct. You will be recorded as you struggle to survive. Those who give us entertaining video that we can sell receive bonuses. Your other option is to do nothing and die once you enter the tutorial. Your choice, die or live. Good luck. White light enveloped Alvin, momentarily blinding him. When he got his sight back, he was on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. Across the street was a small stopover place. He could see a gas station convenience store, a motel, and about another dozen buildings behind them. A blue screen appeared before him, seeming to hover in the air. He read the information, his eyes wide as he tried to take it in. Welcome to the Apocalypse Gates. You have begun the tutorial stage. To complete the stage, survive for 24 hours. Experience will be rewarded based on your actions. Good luck. Alvin tried to touch the box, but as soon as his hand passed through it, the screen vanished.
Holy fuck. It's like a game, he breathed out. How do I call up my status screen?
Another screen appeared before him. This one showed a three-dimensional image of him along with a slew of numbers and other information. What's up, David Wilmarth? Good to see you. Alvin Leon Lambert. Human. 0 experience. Brawn, 3.31. Nimbleness, 5.23. Aptitude, 4.69. Personality, 2.23. Hardiness, 3.79. Spells, none. Powers, none. Frowning, he tried to touch the brawn stat. A short description appeared next to it. He read it, then the others to get a better idea of what they did. Brawn, your physical strength. This determines how much you can carry, how much extra damage you do in melee, and your chance at breaking things. Joe Average. That's about you in this category. All stats are out of a 10-point maximum for humans. Average is 3.5. Olympic level is 7.5. Nimbleness. Your physical agility. This stat determines how flexible you are, how quick your reflexes are, how easily you can move each part of your body. Used for all hand-eye coordination tasks as well as your ability to dodge. Those years of being a bad boy are paying off here, aren't they? All stats are out of a 10-point maximum for humans. Average is 3.5. Olympic level is 7.5. Aptitude. Your mental prowess. The
The stat is used to help you figure out complex puzzles and other mental gymnastics. Smart enough to know what you can do and what to walk away from. Smart enough to know what you can do and what to walk away from. Good thing, huh? All stats are out of a 10-point maximum for humans, average being 3.5. Olympic level is close to 7.5. Personality. Personability. Your personal magnetism. This stat helps you influence people based on physical looks and personality. Gods, you really are a prick, aren't you? All stats are out of a 10-point maximum for humans. Average is 3.5. Olympic level is 7.5. Hardiness. Your physical body. This stat represents your physical stamina, dictating how much you can push your body before fatigue sets in. Also affects how much damage each part of your body can take before it is rendered disabled or destroyed. Maybe this is how you survived all those beatings? All stats are out of a 10-point maximum for humans. Average is 3.5. Olympic level is 7.5. What is going on with my thingy here? How did that happen? Well, for some reason my chat thing is truncated there, but oh well. Alright. Alvin mulled over his stats and couldn't find fault with them, except for the snark. If he had been put into a game, they would be about right. His personability was really bad, but then he knew he was an asshole. He didn't need it pointed out to him. He had always been quick to learn things, and he had picked his fair share of pockets when he was younger. That explained his aptitude and his nimbleness to his satisfaction. Also why his other abilities were what they were. He glanced at the buildings across the road, then looked to the west as the sun was slowly sinking behind the distant hills. He looked back at the buildings, noticing they didn't have any lights on, and a cold chill ran over him. Apocalypse gates. I wonder what kind of apocalypse, he wondered as he stared at the buildings. He checked the road again, just to make sure no cars were speeding at him. Not seeing any dangers, he crossed the street, his hands brushing against his jeans as he walked. Blue jeans, white t-shirt, and sneakers. A quick search proved there was nothing in his pockets. It also proved that his sense of touch was just as sharp as he was used to. No lights were on in the gas station, but he still tried the door, finding it unlocked. His palms tingled for a second as a small rush of old memories from his younger days came to him. It would be so easy to take whatever he wanted from here. The register would probably crack easy enough. Plus, he suddenly felt a need for a drink and snack. "Hello? Is the store open?" he asked as he pushed the door open. He paused with the door open to listen, but no return greeting came. He did smell the scent of blood in the air. Blood and offal. He hadn't smelled that for years, not missing it in the least. He entered the building, licking his lips a small pulse of fear. Licking his lips as a small pulse of fear washed over him. The counter was just a few feet away. He stepped quietly over, peeking over it. He swallowed against the sudden bile in his throat. The dead body sprawled behind the counter was not a pretty sight. The multiple gunshots to the torso were ragged, large-caliber handgun exit wounds, visible as the body was face down. Looking away, as he tried to push down memories that came to him, he half-noted the open register and sighed. He was fine, as long as he didn't leave prints all over. He just wanted to grab some water and a candy bar before getting out. Turning away from the counter, he crossed to the fridge doors. Electricity had been off for a while from the feel of it. The doors were the same temperature as the room. Using his shirt, he opened the door and grabbed out a bottle of Arrowhead. As he did, a hand shot forward from behind the bottles, just missing his shirt as he jerked backwards. "Fuck!" Alvin shouted, slamming the door shut as the rack behind the glass began to rattle. Turning, he ran down the aisle, grabbing a bag of jerky as he went by. Just as he made it to the front, the clerk with the gunshot wounds lurched to its feet. "Fucking zombies! Really, you fuckers?" He dashed out the glass door, taking a left and running for the motel. The sun sunk lower, casting long shadows that stretched out. Panting as he ran, Alvin glanced towards the motel and had a bad feeling about it. He needed something to use as a weapon. The motel was a bad choice. There weren't any cars out front of the place, which would mean no guests, but maybe they would have a fire axe. He looked back at the store just as the glass door pushed open and the clerk came stumbling out, hissing. Alvin decided it would be better to check the houses. He would need the hope that somebody had a weapon. Turning down the side street between the motel and station, Alvin started to jog as he ripped the top off the water. He took a big gulp, his eyes scanning for movement as he went. His steps slowed as his brain nudged him about something that was out of place. None of the houses he could see had vehicles. Nothing parked in any driveway, and most didn't have garages, so it was just wrong for there to be such a lack. "Fucking games," he growled as he ripped the bag of jerky open and stuffed a few pieces into his mouth. "You fuckers are just sick," he muttered, thinking of whoever was behind this setup. "Think, Al, think," he said to himself. "You just need to survive. Trying to hole up in a house might work, but probably won't. That is where most probably go wrong trying to survive." Fuck you, ads, god damn it. "That is where most probably go wrong trying to survive the first day. What I need to do is get away from the dead, but at least 2 are aware of me." He looked back again, seeing the 2 zombies from the gas station still following him at a slow shamble. Good news. They're slow. Bad news is they probably don't stop. Why am I talking to myself? Alvin clamped his mouth shut as his brain kicked into gear. Finally. A weapon would be nice, but he didn't need one. Technically to survive. He just needed to not die. Staying where corpses were after him while he was unarmed was a bad idea. Going for a walk down a deserted road at night wasn't great either. He passed the first 4 houses, thinking it likely the sick fucks who made this game probably put zombies in them, more than in the other houses. He picked the 6th house and went to the front door. He twisted the knob to find it locked. He ground his teeth, wishing he had a set of picks on him. Shaking his head, he noticed a bit of baling wire next to the door. He grabbed it and knelt down next to the lock, working the wire into the lock. This was a horrible idea, but it was that or hope he could kick the door in.
Sorry, it's funny, I laugh at things on the chat and then I don't explain it, so I just look at it and go, huh. Yeah, someone said I was looking for somebody named Ads and wondering what they said that pissed you off. Yeah, actually, my Docs viewer in my Kindle has ads on it, and I don't know what to do about that. Maybe I can find a version that I can purchase. I don't know. Where are we at? The door unlocked, and he quickly opened it to step inside. He sighed in relief, but then his eyes widened as he heard sounds coming from the closest houses. Fuck, he hissed. He needed to search the place quick and get out. He wasn't going to rush, though, as there might be someone or something home after all. Nothing moved nearby, so he stepped into the house fully. TV, sofas, pictures, just like any house you would expect. If the homeowner had a gun, it would probably be in the bedroom. He glanced into the kitchen. Thankfully, it was empty. He approached the door to his left, which was closed. He checked the knob. It turned easily in his hand. He thrust the door open and stepped back, just in case a zombie was there. His heart wound down after a few seconds, when nothing lurched out at him.
The sun set, bringing darkness to the land and to the room he was in. Cursing silently, he squinted into the room, not seeing anything suspicious. Under the bed first, then the closet, he decided. Maybe the nightstand if he was looking for a pistol. He went to the bed, dropping to his knees, and prayed that nothing bit him as he stuck his hand under the bed. Carpet and a box. He dragged the box out and took the top off. Adult magazines and a vibrator. He tossed them back under the bed and pulled the nightstand open. More complicated toys along with a set of stainless steel cuffs. Figures he would find at the kink house, he thought as he shut the drawer. As he got back to his feet, he could hear movement from outside the house. Grimacing, he went to the closet, opening it. Pitch black greeted him. Fuck, he silently cursed, as he needed a flashlight. He slid his hands along the walls just in case. He found a length of wood and grabbed it as nothing else was there besides clothes. He left the darkness and went back into the main room just as a zombie came stumbling into the house. He looked at the hockey stick in his hand. Not great, he thought, and stepped into the kitchen. A back door was visible, so he went to it, throwing the locks and stepping out into the night. As he exited the house, movement to his left caught his attention, and he jabbed with the stick. That was enough to fend off the lunge from the moaning figure wearing a maid outfit with a set of snapped cuffs on her wrists. He saw her throat had been cut open, but the blood that had cascaded down her front was dry. "No means no, lady," Alvin grunted as he shoved the zombie back a step, then turned and ran for it. Cursing, he realized he left his water and jerky in the house. He'd set them down by the bed. Fuck, 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 Alvin cussed, as he knew he should head back to the station to grab another set. Then he should start walking down the road. There were too many zombies in this small podunk stopover. He headed for the store again, detouring around a group of 3 zombies that were lurching down the street. He was thankful they moved at the speed of a slow walk. It would be easy to outdistance them at least. Thankfully, they weren't 28 days later fast zombies. If they had been, he would have been fucked. Found a length of wood and grabbed it. Giggity. After the detour, he made it back to the store. Adios, you After the detour, he made it back to the store. He grabbed water and jerky again, not caring about Prince. Who would care about petty theft when there were zombies around? As he made it back out of the store, he looked down the street towards the houses. He could make out a dozen figures shambling toward him. "Adios, you undead fucks," Alvin sneered, starting down the road at a trot, jerky in his pocket, water in one hand, and a hockey stick on his other shoulder. After 10 minutes, he settled into a walk and took a drink. The moon came up, illuminating the landscape for him. Vaguely Great Plains states is what it looked like to him. Definitely not a desert, or a forest, or mountains. I'm in the middle of nowhere, with zombies behind me and who knows what the fuck ahead of me. Alvin paused and took a seat on the road. He would hear a car long before it got close to him. He took the jerky from his pocket, eating it while washing it down with sips of water. Maybe 3 hours into the 24. I can stay up for a full day. That won't be an issue. Getting a little thirsty and hungry isn't bad either. Shrugging, he sat there and looked around for a bit, letting the slight breeze blow over him. Fall weather. It was chilly, but at least he didn't have to worry about freezing. He could wait for a few hours and see if zombies showed up. If not, he was fine. If they did, he could just loop around them and go back to the podunk. Maybe he could find a flashlight and search a bit more. 2 hours later, the zombies came into sight again, all 12 of them shuffling down the road. Getting back to his feet, Alvin sighed. He started at a jog away from the zombies at a 90-degree angle. He watched as the zombies all shifted to follow him. Shrugging again, he set off at a ground-eating jog back towards the buildings. As he went, he had As he went, he had to slow to a walk several times as he felt himself starting to get winded. He sipped the water as he went, even pausing to urinate at one point. A game that you need to take a piss in. How novel, he grumped as he started jogging again. When he made it back to the podunk stopover, he decided to go into the gas station first. That seemed the best bet for being able to find a flashlight, and it would have the best and it would have the best visibility with the large glass windows for the moonlight to pour through. After a few minutes of going up and down every aisle, he finally spotted flashlights. Grabbing one, he tore it out of the package and then went to the front where the batteries were behind the counter. He popped open a pack of AA batteries and dropped them into the flashlight. He got it turned on and proceeded to search the building. He found a crowbar in the back and dropped the hockey stick in favor of the metal bar. With his new weapon, a flashlight, and a fresh bottle of water, he set out to explore. He went out the back door and headed for the houses, figuring the motel would be a bust. The first two houses had broken doors where zombies had forced their ways out. Should be safe enough, he figured, as he went into the first one. He got through 5 houses, finding only a shotgun with only 2 shells that were already chambered in the double-barrel gun. He hooked the crowbar through a belt loop on his jeans and took the gun with him. As he exited the house, he could hear the zombies moaning as they shuffled after him. Rolling his eyes at how persistent the zombies were being, he sighed. It's like the government, following you until you pay them taxes, he grumbled with a smirk. No, that's not fair to the zombies. They have more brains than the government. A loud groan caught his attention as another zombie came around the corner of the house. He shouldered the gun and pulled the trigger, aiming at its head. It dropped as if poleaxed. As it dropped, Alvin leaned forward, emptying his stomach. After a moment, he righted himself to find the zombies closing in. He started walking away, washing his mouth out as he went. He shivered. He had locked that memory away. Now it came... What? Poleaxed. As if poleaxed. Okay, I guess there's a memory of someone getting poleaxed. Come on. Zoom for me, please. Okay. He shivered. He had locked that memory away. Now it came crashing back to him, the abusive foster parent who had beaten him every day. Frank Harris. He acted like an upstanding man when he was out in public, but at home, behind closed doors, he beat the foster kids he took care of. But Frank had forgotten to lock his room one day. Alvin had gone in and found the shotgun under the bed. At 8 years old, Alvin committed murder. He shot Frank as soon as the man walked in the door from work that night. Alvin went to juvie when the cops investigated. It had taken them months to find other children willing to give statements that Frank had abused them. Alvin was eventually cleared of the charge of murder. By then, the damage had been done. Alvin had learned that the system was broken. By the age of 10, he had started to commit petty theft against anyone who crossed him. He pickpocketed teachers for lunch money as the system kept moving him from foster home to foster home. He went after those people who crossed him. It didn't matter if it was a student or teacher. He stole his first car at 13. The principal of the junior high was pissed when his shiny Mustang was taken for a joyride. Shaking his head to force the memory away, he started to jog down the road again, leading the zombies away from the buildings. 2 hours out, 2 hours back was the routine. He got the other houses searched on his next trip after using the shotgun to blow another zombie's head off. This time he was able to swallow the bile in his throat as the head burst apart. He was glad it was night, so the gore was mostly washed out, but the smell was horrible. He dropped the shotgun for a metal bat he found in the last house, which left him with just the motel to check. He grabbed some more jerky as his stomach was empty again, along with a bottle of Gatorade. Out and back the road. out and back on the road for the third time gave him enough time to search the motel. He found a panic room in the manager's office. He loaded up the room with some drinks and food before he shut himself inside and prayed that his tormentors would teleport him out after the time ended. As he drifted off to sleep, he heard the zombies shuffling around outside of the room. And that's the end of that. That's the end of that request. Thanks, Dan Schinhofen. All right, so this one is like a really classic zombie story. Oh, shit. Yeah, really classic zombie story. Like, it opens just like a zombie story, except for the whole, the very beginning. Lots of survival elements, like, you know what it reminds me of, game-wise, is, there's this one, it's kind of a Civilization one, not really top down, but like you get to build up you take in other survivors, and then you have settlements, and then you can expand to other settlements. What is it called? I played it for a little bit. I wish I could remember. It does remind me of a certain video game, though. I like the no, not Dead Rising, because Dead Rising is the one with the photographer in the mall, right? I'm blanking on the name of this video game, and it's driving me nuts. Can you guys remember any more zombie video games? There's one. I think the one that I'm thinking of came out like 4 years ago, maybe. Yeah. Daniel, if you want me to preview a little bit more of your stuff, you can always request Chapter 2, or, whatever other chapters you have. It doesn't necessarily have to be in order. Mario Brothers Zombie Apocalypse. It only starts as a zombie game. Okay. Damn it. It's driving me nuts. I can't think of the name of this video game that I was playing. I'll think of it later. Okay, so our next request was requested by James Hunter. It's his new Viridian Online, Viridian Gate Online spin-off. It's actually on Royal Road Legends right now, and he's teamed up with S.R. Witt, who's got his own series. Let me see if I can look that up. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It is Dragon Web Online. That's right. Let's see. I think he's got 2 books in that series. Yeah, he's got 2 books in that series. It looks like he's got 2 different lit RPG type series. One's called A Gamer's Universe Story. I guess these look like maybe short stories. And then he's got his series, which is Dragon Web Online. And they seem to do decently well. So, State of Decay, that's it. That's it. Thank you, L. Brian. But anyway, I know Viridian Gate Online does really well, so I'm excited to see how this is. And this one's called the Artificer. The Artificer. I used to say Artificer until recently, when I found out how you're supposed to pronounce it. But he said they said that this is like an anti-hero, or actually that this is based on a villain from the original Viridian Gate Online series. So I like that. I like playing the villain. Danny's asking, is there supposed to be an accent on the what? Artificer? I don't know. No problem, Dan Schinhofen. Hope to see you again in the future. Alright, so the Artificer. I don't know, Artificers just sounds better to me. Danny's suggesting Artificer. It sounds almost like Artificer. Let me see if, okay, so they didn't give me any specifics on what chapter to do or anything, so I'm just going to start at the beginning. And I'll go ahead and read the description of the book as well. October 2042. In 2 weeks, the world will die, murdered by a 9-mile-wide extinction-level asteroid screaming toward Earth. And Robert Osmark, billionaire and savvy tech genius, couldn't be readier for the fiery apocalypse. The Artificer is a whole new twist on the immersive world of Viridian Gate Online, told from the perspective of Robert Osmark. Watch as the tech genius and metagamer crushes his enemies beneath his boot on his bloody ascension to the Imperial throne. Okay. Alright, so we're starting on... Oh, cool. Salacious says, hey Jeff, just got done listening to Super Sales on Superheroes and I loved it. Keep up the good work. I will. Looking forward to starting the Feedback Loop series once I get another credit on Audible. Awesome. That does not count as a... I mean, you gotta be explicit. You gotta be like, dude, I want a free audiobook. Doesn't count, dude. Gotta work for it a little bit. There's still 5 left, so I don't know why he wouldn't. Just saying. Alright, so we're gonna start on Chapter 1, Maintenance Sweep. So... Alright, so... Oh, man. Alright, I don't have any character direction or anything, so we'll just have to see how this goes. Robert Osmark watched his death, approaching in vivid, ultra-high definition detail on a 90-inch holotable display. Only a handful of people on the planet could see what Osmark saw, and most of them didn't understand what they were looking at. Not even the smart ones. He zoomed in as close as the satellite's telescopic lens would allow. He wanted to get a good look at his nemesis. When it filled the entire display, Osmark walked up to it and stared at its mottled surface. Did we get any more comments? Nope. Okay. 2213 Astria was a 9-mile wide rock shot through by twisting veins of ice like burrowing worms, the whole thing wreathed in a halo of burning gas. Its surface was an irregular plain of drab and dreary gray, pocked by flecks of white ice. Alright, so how am I going to do this guy's voice? I think I'm just going to go with Chase for now. Flavor. What are you guys saying here? Free stuff. There we go. Pancakes. I'm gonna go. I don't know. I don't want to do Chase. I feel like Chase is too easy. I kind of want to go with Hector because I like. He's a new voice and he might be a good evil genius voice. We'll try Hector from Hero of Thera. Never before has something so uninteresting held so many in awe, Osmark whispered to himself. It was a shame, really. But he wasn't surprised. Humans weren't impressed by the amazing and awesome things happening all around them. Unless it was burning, naked, or life-threatening, most people wouldn't notice a miracle if it bit them on the nose. Osmark technologies have revolutionized life in every corner of the world, but that hunk of rock in the sky had eclipsed all of its achievements the second it revealed itself to the Arecibo Observatory down in Puerto Rico. In the end, the people of the world would be more impressed by an unfeeling, unthinking hunk of stone hurled at their planet by an indifferent universe than by the countless technological miracles Robert Osmark had brought into their lives. Ingrates. Let's go check on the new world, he said to the empty room. Osmark left the asteroid behind. It didn't care about him, or the billions of others it would kill along with him, so why should he care about it? Besides, in many ways, the asteroid was the best thing that had ever happened to him. He turned, heels click-clacking on the gray stone floors, hands neatly folded behind his back, and beeline for the gigantic steel blast door separating his private quarters from the rest of the sprawling underground facility. Leaving the comforts of his suite behind was always a shock, and more than a little disorienting. His room was a work of art. Old gray stone walls, polished, dark wood floorboards underfoot, a massive fireplace with a mocha brown leather sitting close by. A massive fireplace with a mocha brown leather sitting close by. Arched windows littered the room, overlooking a forest filled with an assortment of pines and firs. Halo projections, but the most convincing kind. Built-in nooks and crannies held priceless sculptures. The Lahome... Oh, okay. I'm bad at French, so excuse this. The L'Homme au Doigt, D-O-I-G-T, Doigt, by Alberto Giacometti here. Oh my god. The Tête de Femme by Picasso there, or world-changing paintings. What? Just over his fireplace hung a Nymphaeus by Monet. All works of art the world couldn't stand to lose. Testaments to human brilliance. But one step took him from the luxurious and into a bland white tunnel lined with naked pipes and exposed conduits. Betcha Toby went to make pancakes. He probably did. Okay, sorry, I have to start this paragraph over. But one step took him from the luxurious and into a bland white tunnel lined with naked pipes and exposed conduits. At first glance, the walls appeared to be painted concrete, as was the floor and ceiling. A closer examination revealed the truth. Salt. When Astria plowed into Central America and ended life as humans knew it, this bunker, carved into the world's largest salt deposit, would preserve some of the world's wealthiest inhabitants in a world Osmark had built. Or it would at least preserve their minds. He whistled as he walked down the tunnel, pointedly ignoring the mute and immobile weapon emplacements mounted at regular intervals in the walls and ceiling. Once the largest and deepest salt mine in the world, Osmark's new home had also been a military installation of last resort before it found its way into his hands. He couldn't help but wonder how the architects of this place, who'd built it to stand up to a nuclear assault that paled in comparison to the disaster heading toward Earth, would feel about the improvements he'd made. His first stop was the ventilation and cooling plant. Though there were technicians and engineers tasked with making sure every vital piece of the bunker's machinery was in perfect order, Osmark wasn't going to leave anything to chance. If he'd learned one thing as the head of Osmark Technology, it was that someone always missed something. Always. It was as certain as the turning of the seasons. If he wanted to be sure something was done correctly, he'd have to check it himself. All right, so I just remembered that there was a voice I wanted to use if I ever did do James Hunter's Viridian Gate Online series. So I'm going to try that instead for Osmark here. What's his name? Robert Osmark? Robert, yeah. For Bob. "How's it going, Harry?" he asked the security guards stationed inside the clean room leading to the plant. Names were such a little thing in the grand scheme, but he'd found they held a tremendous power. He knew the name of every subordinate. He knew the names of their family members, because those small details cemented loyalty better than anything else. The guard, a fit former Marine with beef sab arms, stood a little straighter when he addressed Osmark. "Boring, which I guess is an improvement over what's going on topside." He jabbed a finger toward the roof. A broadcast monitor mounted near the ceiling inside the clean room showed Osmark scenes of rising anarchy. A broadcast monitor mounted near the ceiling inside the clean room showed Osmark scenes of rising anarchy, with the You know what's really interesting is having this door open just reminds me how much noise is going on outside that my booth is actually drowning out when the door is closed. There's just tons of shit going on out there. A broadcast monitor mounted near the ceiling inside the clean room showed Osmark scenes of rising anarchy. With the literal end of life on Earth approaching at an alarming rate, things were breaking down. With so little time left, people were doing exactly what they wanted, when they wanted, to whom they wanted. When you had no future, maybe the best you could hope for was to enjoy your present to the fullest. Jeez. Unfortunately, that meant your good day could turn into someone else's very, very bad day. Rioters rampaged across the monitor, weapons raised in mindless defiance. Fires burned in blackened storefronts. The wounded ran screaming, their mouths carved into black circles beneath the horrified caverns of their dark eyes. An overhead view erased the individual rioters and pulled back to show the scope of the insanity. "Where is this?" Osmark asked. "Dallas," Harry said flatly. "I've never seen anything like it. The scary thing is what's missing." Osmark zipped into his white Tyvek suit and raised his mask to his face. Before he strapped it on, he asked, "What's that?" Harry's eyes narrowed as he watched the chaos dance across the monitor. Cops, firemen, ambulances. No one's trying to stop it. No one's trying to help. I am, Osmark thought as he fastened his mask in place. Show me Osmark Stadium. Frank nodded, hands quickly working at the control panel. The chaos in Dallas was replaced by an interior view of a massive football stadium in San Diego. The difference was immediate. Ashen-faced people milled around in orderly pockets, each clutching a lone suitcase with the last of their earthly belongings. Soldiers patrolled the perimeter and weaved their way through the crowd. Their boxy, matte black assault rifles kept the masses in check. These were the survivors. Well, potential survivors. The few lucky enough or wealthy enough to win ARC lottery tickets and a place in one of the deep earth bunkers scattered around the globe. The whole setup was nice, neat, and orderly. And the Silicon Valley facility? Osmark said, leaning forward as he inspected the monitor. Once more, the hollow screen flickered and morphed. A giant warehouse with concrete walls and harsh halogen lighting appeared. The space was filled wall to wall with state-of-the-art next-gen VR capsules, a sea of glossy, black plastic coffins. Here, too, order reigned. Nurses, orderlies, guards, and tech service support personnel loaded people into capsules or carted bodies away for incineration. 5,000 capsules per facility and 500 facilities operating at max capacity worldwide. The greatest evacuation the world had ever seen. What? I am, Osmark thought again as he waved to Harry and stepped into the plant. The noise inside was incredible, deafening even. Even through the state-of-the-art earplugs protecting his hearing, Osmark could hear the plant's unearthly racket. A steady bass drone underlined rhythmic hissing and an oscillating rumble. The bunker was close to 2 miles beneath the surface, hidden below the sleepy town of Independence, Missouri. Oh! Getting air that deep into the earth required a staggering number of powerful fans, which constantly buzzed in the background like never-ending white noise, and each one of those fans added heat to the air passing through its whirling blades. So this bunker is in a place I've actually been to. We have a lot of caves over here, and in Independence, there's a place called Jaegers, which is in one of the biggest underground tunnels in the country. And Jaegers is a paintball place. So I've been there a few times, including a couple of my birthdays. Yeah, so this is cool. I've actually been in places like this. And yes, there are data storage facilities in these underground tunnels as well. So he did his research. I don't know where I stopped. Getting air that deep into the earth required a staggering number of powerful fans, which constantly buzzed in the background like never-ending white noise, and each one of those fans added heat to the air passing through its whirling blades. The mine's engineers had dealt with the heat by adding enormous cooling chambers between the fans. Exhaust vents dissipated the heat through narrow channels leading back to the surface. It was an impressive feat of engineering, and if it ever failed, everywhere in the bunker would die through a painful combination of everyone in the bunker would die through a painful combination of suffocation and slow broiling. There was no chance of it failing any time in the next 100 years, however. Osmark had seen to that personally. He'd hired the best engineers on the planet to improve the system, pushing it far beyond the capacity its creators ever imagined. Standing on the catwalk overlooking his end-of-the-world air conditioning system, Osmark couldn't help but smile. Everything was working exactly as he'd planned, and it would keep on working long after he died. Truffle says, except it would have been more productive to have some greenhouses to provide air instead of bringing air in from the surface that is soon to be toxic and destroyed. Maybe. Good night, Don. Perfect, he whispered, leaving the plant behind for the last time. I don't know, maybe I like Hector better. Perfect, he whispered, leaving the plant behind for the last time. Briskly, he marched down a dozen different hallways after he left the cooling and ventilation plant. Left, right, left, straight, right, taking each turn without the least hesitation. The broadcast monitor scattered around the mine kept him apprised of the situation on the surface. He did his best to tune it out because it pained him to see people behaving like animals. He was living proof that they didn't have to be that way. A little effort, a little luck, some brains, and one man could move the world. Several levels down from the ventilation plant, Osmark reached his next stop. With a wave of his hand, another steel blast door swung open on silent hinges, revealing a stark white hallway which connected to a darkened chamber. The security guard was half out of his chair before he recognized Osmark. "I didn't know you were coming out today, sir," the man said with a sheepish grin. "Relax, John," Osmark said. "I'm just making the rounds." His last stop had been all about cooling things down, but this room was for heating things up. OLED panels lined the walls, each displaying information about a critical subsystem. The center of the far wall was what drew Osmark's attention, though. Because it gave a readout of the whole system at a glance. That display had a tiny pictogram representing the salt mine at its top. Yeah, I agree. A thick tube led from the mine down to the Earth's vast darkness. Sorry. Truffle says Hector's voice sounds more refined for this character, and yeah, I agree. Plus, it always puts me in mind of, Benedict Cumberbatch, so that helps. That display had a tiny pictogram representing the salt mine at its top. A thick tube led from the mine down to the Earth's vast darkness. The mine's geothermal well. It descended more than 10 miles below the Earth's surface to a vast lake of superheated, pressurized water. That water, almost 500 degrees Fahrenheit temperature, was pumped up to the power plant under intense pressure. The steam generated turned turbines, which generated electricity. Okay, he probably means this. The steam turned turbines, which generated electricity. As the water cooled, it flowed back to the lake that provided it. The closed loop was efficient, nearly perfect. It would keep electricity flowing until the end of time, powering the Overmind servers which ruled Viridian Gate Online. The central display was a solid shade of blue, telling Osmark everything was running as expected. "Of course it is," he whispered to himself. "I made it." Satisfied, he turned and left, waving goodbye to John for the last time as he headed deeper into the earthen bunker, past the food stores and clean water wells, the housing quarters for the transition team, and the drone vaults. Where to go? The drones were Osmark's final project. After Estrella did its dirty work and debris stopped falling from the sky, the bunker's artificial intelligence units would direct the drones to the surface. There, they'd clear away rubble and debris from the entrance just in case one of the mine's residents needed to head outside. But more importantly, the drones would be able to deploy a sophisticated solar cell system once the atmosphere shed the worst of Astrea's pollution. Those cells would allow the drones to recharge on the surface so they could continue exploring the dead world left behind. Osmark paused, then, rubbing his suddenly sweat-slick hands over his pants. What? Osmark paused, then rubbed his suddenly sweat-slick hands over his pants. There was only one last area to check before he made the plunge. The servers themselves, buried in an area the staff jokingly referred to as the underworld. No one liked to go down there. Not the techs, not the engineers, not the guards. And if Osmark were honest, he'd include himself on that list. Still, this was the most important check, the one the whole world of Viridian Gate Online rode on, and he couldn't put it off any longer. Reluctantly, he made his way down the catwalk to a stainless steel elevator which plunged even deeper into the earth. Nice. When the elevator door dinged open, the trio of guards standing at attention didn't apologize for pointing their weapons in Osmark's direction. It wasn't until the lead guard recognized Robert that he motioned for the others to relax. One last check, sir? The guard, a whip-thin man with a crew cut named Marcus, asked. Better safe than sorry, Osmark said, giving the men each a nod as he passed them. The black door they were guarding had no handle or lock. A single glowing green panel marked its center. Osmark placed his palm on it and spread his fingers wide to give the sensor a clear view of his prints. Red light flashed in each of his eyes, scanning his retinas and confirming his identity. Without a sound, the door vanished into the wall. Okay, we're almost done. Osmark licked his lips. He wasn't afraid. Not of a machine he'd helped create, but he couldn't hide his apprehension. What he'd accomplished here wasn't just a feat of technology. It was miraculous. And that made him just a little nervous. The black box was 10 yards on a side and 5 yards tall. It looked like a chunk of polished obsidian resting on the salt floor. Thick cooling tubes descended from the ceiling to connect to the box's sides and top. Thick cooling tubes descended from the ceiling to connect to the box's sides and top like metallic umbilical cords. The faint whooshing of forced air was the only sound inside the sacred chamber. Osmark approached the room's only other object, a black monitor resting on top of a short pillar. When he stopped in front of it, a low, mechanical voice droned, "Hello, Robert." The monitor flickered to life, displaying a dizzying array of charts and graphs. None of them were labeled because no one would ever see this display other than Robert. He knew what each line and bar chart meant. He understood intimately what every colored pixel was telling him. This was an overview of the world he'd created, the virtual reality realm where close to 4 million men, women, and children would live after Astrea wiped out the rest of humanity. Not to mention the other 8 million or so NPCs generated by the Overminds. Like everything else, it was close to perfect. So close that the imperfections rose to the surface like jarring notes struck in an otherwise melodious orchestra. "Damn it," Robert snarled. The Chinese had assured him their donation would work flawlessly, and it had, until recently. There was something off with the Thanatos Overmind. There were no severe anomalies, but almost constant fluctuations above and below normal operating thresholds disturbed Robert's otherwise flawless system. "Maybe it's the reflection core. I could just tweak," Robert muttered absently, then bit his tongue. With only a little more than 8 days remaining before Astrea plowed into the earth, there was no point in tinkering with the arcade built. He'd done the best he could, and it would be more than good enough. He hoped.
Yeah, that's what you get. You can't depend on the Chinese doing good craftsmanship, man. They're about cheap. Make it cheap. Foolish. So yeah, this sounds kind of cool. Like, um, so we get the perspective of someone who actually designed the game. I think Eden's Gate did something like this, but the way Eden's Gate started made the guy seem like a total dick. Um, and this guy, Robert, sounds like he's a pretty good guy. And he's a genius, and like you get to get into his whole process. I like all the details about how it's underground and how everything works. And I guess that makes the name of the book pretty interesting because maybe I haven't read Viridian Gate Online, but if for anyone who has, maybe you know who this Osmark guy is, and maybe he's like an artificer in the game, and you could say that this thing that he's made that made the game that runs the game could be considered his artifact in the real world. I don't know. Really cool, really cool. I like the writing as well. Nice and evocative, heavy, weighted. I like it. So thanks James Hunter and SR Witt for making that request. I'm kind of surprised they're not here. Did they get notified that that we're, cuz they're tagged on the post, right? All right. Where is it? Here we go. And here comes our last request for the night. I want to thank you guys again for coming and hanging out with me, and for making these requests, and for voting on these requests. This one I almost read last time, the last requests only, but we ran out of time basically. Um, and I'm really excited to do this one. Now, how to avoid death on a daily basis. This is a huge series. I think there's like 4 or 5 books already in the series. It started off, I believe, on Royal Road Legends, but then Mr. V. Moody started his own website. I don't know, maybe it's a lot like Royal Road, um, but it's a little cleaner, to be honest, and it's like more dedicated to how to avoid death on a daily basis. But yeah, he's got his own site. He's got this on Royal Road. 4 of these books are, I think 4 or 5 of these books are published on Kindle, and I think the actual one, the chapter that I'm reading right now, is from the second book. This is chapter 64, and I know the first book doesn't, it goes all the way through 34 or something, so I'm pretty sure this is book 2. If you guys remember, the first chapter that I read for this was actually after, like, I don't know, a few chapters after this one. But these are all British people, and that chapter had the racist vegan zombie. So I'm looking forward to this. I love doing these accents, especially narrating them in them. Chapter 64. Let's talk about sex, baby. I stared at my finger for what seemed like forever, although I was still a bit stoned, so it may only have been 5 seconds. With my other hand, I touched the blue flame dancing on the top of my index finger. It didn't feel very hot, but it was definitely there. A gentle breeze drifted in from across the water, and the flame went out. I continued to stare at what was now just my finger. Then I repeated the hand movements to bring the flame back. Nothing happened.
I tried a number of times, but I couldn't make it reappear. It was fine, though. The flame had definitely been real, and if it was possible once, it meant it was possible again. Just knowing that made a huge difference. Now I just had to figure out how I'd done it. Decats. Okay, so Danny, this is your second name, right? Decats00. My first thought was that the weed was responsible. Perhaps it contained some magical ingredient that allowed the smoker to do magic. But there was one flaw in this theory, which was Pitt. I had seen him do magic with the fish calling, and he didn't smoke. Then again, Nabo was on his pipe pretty much 24/7, so there was always a cloud of smoke hanging over the platform. Second-hand smoke magic? It seemed a bit of a stretch. My other thought was that the weed had put me into a very relaxed state of mind. Just before I managed to produce the flame, I had reached a point where I really didn't care about anything. Not about the others going off together, not about being alone, not even about whether I'd be able to produce a flame. If not giving a fuck was the key to being able to do magic, I had the potential to become the greatest wizard this world had ever seen. Of course, try not to care about something you actually care a lot about is no easy task. That's where the weed came in. It had to get me to a place where I stopped caring. I just needed to get myself back there and see if that did the trick. Since everyone seemed to be busy doing their own thing, I went back to the camp where I could get a fire going the old-fashioned way. I took Nabo's pipe with me, which was a bit cheeky, but he could always make another one. And I had saved his life, which was an excellent trump card to use as my excuse. It didn't take long to start a fire. I leaned in to light the pipe and took some nice, deep drags of pondweed. The effects quickly washed over me, and I returned to the warm bosom of Stonedom. But the flame still wouldn't work. I tried it a number of times, all to no avail. Even though I was stoned, I couldn't recapture that feeling of general ambivalence from before. I cared too much. Not something I ever thought I'd have to worry about. What was at stake was so huge it was impossible to act like it wasn't. I couldn't help but get worked up about it as I made the finger movements. I took a break and attempted to calm myself, but my head was too full of the possibilities, and my anticipation remained sky-high. Of course, there was one other way for a young man to release some of his tension. Yup. To be absolutely clear, this had nothing to do with everyone else getting laid and me feeling lonely. This was for science. I went into my tent and took care of business. I'm not sure what the world record is for quickest wank, but I'm pretty sure I smashed it. As I lay there, slightly out of breath, the sheer ridiculousness of what I was trying to do made me giggle uncontrollably. Fuck. As I lay there, slightly out of breath, the sheer ridiculousness of what I was trying to do made me giggle uncontrollably. Eventually, my amusement at myself subsided and I tried to make magic happen. It worked first time. Flame on. I couldn't believe it. I burst out laughing again. If I had to jerk off every time I wanted to use magic, it was going to make battling monsters very tricky. Not many fights allow for a fat break. Still, I could use magic. The flame danced on my finger. It wasn't a fireball, but it was a start. I blew it out and crawled out of the tent to find the rest of my party standing there with confused and slightly judgmental looks on their faces. The judgmental part may have been my imagination. "What were you doing in there?" asked Claire. Magic," I said, which was true on a number of levels. Producing a flame there and then was not an easy thing to do. All four of them staring at me expectantly was a lot of pressure.
Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Lot of pressure. Lot of pressure. Where'd it go? I raised my hand and moved my fingers. A flame appeared. They were suitably stunned, and then they were shrieking and jumping up and down, hitting me with a barrage of questions. I told them how being stoned had put me in the right frame of mind. I skipped over the other part, and they were keen to try it for themselves. We sat around the fire and passed the pipe around. They quickly got stoned, but there was a slight problem. Unlike me, their reaction to being baked wasn't a zen-like chill. God damn it. It made them horny. Literally the opposite of not giving a fuck. They started giving each other sideways glances and flirty looks. None of them were able to produce a flame, unsurprisingly. Not often you need a bucket of cold water. Not often you need a bucket of cold water to get a fire going. I know I said I didn't begrudge them their fun, but this was just irritating. Go off and shag yourselves silly in private if you want, but don't get all hot and bothered in front of me. That's just rude. There's something I want to say to you all. Did you hear that? Yo. There's something I want to say to you all, I said. Their attention returned to me, reluctantly. I know you guys have hooked up and are couples now. They seemed surprised I had figured it out. Oh, yeah, said Maurice. Sorry about that. We didn't want you to feel awkward. That's why we didn't mention it, said Claire. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, joined in Flossie. Dudley also mumbled something apologetic. All the apologizing was annoying. It wasn't even sincere, the smug bastards. Sorry for having loads of sex when you weren't. I wonder why Allmark never printed that card. I don't care about that. I feel awkward most of the time already. You lot fucking isn't going to change that. But I assume you haven't been using any kind of contraception, so there's a real danger one of you might get pregnant. This dose of reality swiped the smug... This dose of reality wiped the smug sympathy from... God damn it. This dose of reality wiped the smug sympathy from their faces. Colin Fu, black belt. We really don't need the extra problems something like that will bring, right? I looked to them for confirmation. They said nothing. Look, I said, it's not like having a baby would be the end of the world. People have been having kids in difficult situations since there have been people. It's normal. All I'm saying is, it wouldn't be helpful right now. Having to travel around with a pregnant woman, dealing with the birth, keeping the mother and baby safe when we get into fights, it'd all be a huge pain. Nobody agreed with me, but they didn't disagree either. They sat there fidgeting. I continued. All I'm saying is, if you do end up with a bun in the oven, I will be leaving the group to go off on my own. Claire stood up, face contorted into a mixture of disbelief and outrage. What? Why? I held up my hands. Hey, I'm just being honest with you guys. Like I said, being in a tough spot has never stopped people having kids. I'm sure you'll do just fine without me. Why do you have to be like this? Said Claire. That's a really shitty thing to say, Colin. The Sorceress Supreme was about to unleash her arsenal of guilt-inducing weaponry. I could tell. Well, fuck that. I know we've come a long way together, I said calmly. But once you have kids, everything changes. One for all and all for one becomes women and children first. Which is fine if it's your women and children, but I don't want to become a nanny to a bunch of sprogs, thanks very much. It's your choice to have kids, and it should be your responsibility to look after them. Don't you think that's fair? There was an uncomfortable silence. Claire was the only one standing. She was also shaking with rage. So, you're saying we have to stop having sex or you'll leave? What? No? How'd you come to that conclusion? There's lots of ways to have sex without getting pregnant. Handjobs, blowjobs, up the arse.
All I'm saying is, I don't intend to have my already crappy life turned into a bigger bag of shite just because you were having too good a time to remember to pull out. Claire's face got redder, and she looked like she might explode any minute. I am not going to have sex up the arse just to make you happy. Well, it wouldn't just make me happy, right, Maurice? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, holy shit. Oh. Oh. Maurice was caught a little off guard. What? I mean, yes. I mean, no. Wait. What are we talking about? Well, you can forget it, Claire screamed at Maurice. But I didn't even... Maurice was at a loss for words. And you, Claire pointed at me. You're just jealous. Yep, you got me, Claire. I'm super jelly. So jealous that I'm encouraging you to have anal sex. Because that's what you do when you're jealous, isn't it? Try to convince the people you're jealous of to take it up the shitter. A well-known cure for jealousy. Oh my god. Claire seemed unable to find the words to express her feelings. She turned to Maurice and pointed at him. No! It wasn't even my idea, said Maurice, a little unconvincingly, if you ask me. Flossie suddenly got up. We all waited to see what she had to say. She stood very stiff with her head bowed, staring at the ground. I don't mind taking it in the bum. She slowly turned towards Dudley, still intently gazing at her shoes. I mean, if that's what you want. Dudley's face did the kind of gymnastics that would have scored a perfect 10 at the Olympics. I can't say for sure what was going through his mind, but my guess would. My guess would be something along the lines of... But my guess would be something along the lines of, oh my god, this is it. The dream. No, wait, it's a trap. She's testing me. I should say I don't want to. But what if it's my one and only chance? How can I say no? Take the shot. Is that what you want? Asked Flossie bashfully. Reddest of all the red faces, poor Dudley eked out a pitiful... I'm sorry. Reddest of all the red faces, poor Dudley eked out a pitiful... No? You can forget it. All of you. Flossie, you're sleeping with me tonight. Claire grabbed Flossie by the arm and yanked her towards one of the tents. Flossie looked back at Dudley apologetically just before she disappeared behind the tent flaps. Maurice and Dudley shared a sorrowful look with each other. I don't think they knew what had just happened, other than something precious had been tantalizingly hung in front of them and then cruelly snatched away. I sat back down by the fire and lit the pipe from my finger. And that's how you teach people not to go around flaunting their good luck in front of those not so fortunate. Works like magic. Oh my god! This book is awesome!
god, I have to do this book. I have to get in touch with V. Moody here and work a deal. Oh, this is so good. All right, so that's the end of our requests for today. So thank you guys again for hanging out uh, here on Sound Booth Theater Live. If you guys can somehow, uh, you should accost V Moody with emails and be like, you have to get audio done. No, don't do that. I'm kidding, because that would be rude. But I'm gonna try and get it done. Hope maybe we can do one more request. But yeah. So I guess just one audiobook given away today. And I guess right after this, Danny, go ahead and start up a new poll. Only one request. What? There was only one request for a free audiobook. I don't know what it is. But that's our show for tonight. So thank you guys for coming. And let's see. For the rest of the, let's see, this week and the next week, I'm going to be working on Life Reset by Shemmer Kuznets. Sorry. Yeah, 2 whole weeks of that. So this Wednesday, I don't know if there's going to be anything. Any kind of Sound Booth Theater Live. Maybe we'll just do one more requests only next Sunday. I think that's what we'll do. Another request only. I'm just gonna go ahead and schedule it next Sunday. Requests only, same time. So yeah, I hope to see you guys there. That book. Wow. Wow.